Hello, and welcome to the Tyre Straights Podcast. My name is Dootson,
I am Scobbert.
and we are here to introduce you to who we are and what we're going to be doing in this, our first intro episode.
This is the beginning, the genesis,
The
birth
genesis
of
of
something great.
Something beautiful or something horrendous, depending on how it goes.
We'll see.
Now, do you want to run us through what sort of stuff we're going to be doing? Roughly?
Absolutely, it would be my pleasure. So here we're quite chill. We approach Formula One and other motorsports in a very laid back and calm manner.
We're going to be doing things such as Formula One reviews, so of the races and testing and other events going on, catching up on news that's happened around both F1 and other races and motorsport, and then all sorts of other random stuff that we can fit in because there are plenty of gaps throughout the season.
Oh yes. And on that note, we do plan to release at least one episode of the podcast every week, and possibly other such videos and social media engagement posts. So we're always going to be around. Try and catch us if you can.
Yeah, so if you have a listen and are quite fond of it and want to keep up with the episodes, then feel free to follow us on Spotify or YouTube and follow our Instagram account, which should be set up now.
Oh yes,
Please. Yes, okay,
yes. Admin, aka me, is on.
Yes,
it.
I'm not a social media person. It's not my cup of tea.
No, you're not. I'm aware.
Yes,
anyway, so let's just get into the meat and the bone of what's to come here. So obviously, Formula One is the big one right now, and we have just seen the conclusion of the private test, or not so private test, in Barcelona. Just on that first point, obviously, just to get into it, calling it a private test is a bit of an oxymoron at this point, with the amount of publicism that's surrounded this test from F1. It kind of defeats the point of calling it a private test in the first place, especially when we've got pre-season testing to come.
I do understand why they've done it, because giving an extra weekend of testing makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, no, it's not that that's the confusing part.
It is very strange how they've said to us, this is a private test.
Exactly.
No media is allowed in, no one's allowed near the circuit, so it means that we're not getting any proper information out of it. But they're also giving us catch-ups on their YouTube channel.
And highlights and all sorts.
Yeah, and we're having people camping out in trees to watch things going on. And as such, it's just it feels a bit like unnecessary. Like, I understand not wanting to disrupt the testing with lots of media sessions and stuff like that. And we don't need it to be fully broadcast or anything.
No, not at
all.
But,
like, some amount of... There's no need to try and keep it under wraps when you've already told us where it is, when it is, like, who's running on what days, like, things like that. It just feels a bit strange.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just... If to do a private test, it needs to intrinsically sort of... If anything, there would be more mysticism about it being private as well. Like, from like, building up towards this new season, obviously we're going in with brand new regulations. The whole grid could be shaken up, in theory, with these new regulations, how they, the teams, how they interpret the rules, the new set of rules with the aerodynamics, and obviously the new engines as well. New engine suppliers also joining the roster. So there's a lot of factors going into this, and to maintain a level of secrecy could almost make it more interesting to speculate for us fans at the moment, because all we're doing is essentially getting the information fed to us that certain teams are struggling, certain teams are feel optimistic. And obviously that just doesn't make it a private test.
And the other thing is that we're not being fed this officially, we're having to be fed it from random Spanish people sitting in trees recording it from afar, which, like, they're doing incredible work for the community.
On an iPhone 5, some of the camera quality I've seen online is interesting.
Understandably, but also people are being driven away from the
circuits. Oh yeah, no, I've seen
that
with security,
so,
security patrolling around. You wouldn't have to go to that trouble if you just made it a private test.
I mean, that, or just don't restrict people from, like, standing near the fences. I understand probably like initially the idea was maybe that you'd have to hire security and ways to manage
Yeah,
it and stuff like that. But if you're hiring security to keep people away anyway, then
it
it's already an issue.
it does just feel like they're dipping sort of they're towing the line a little bit between private test and not private, because it feels like they're not willing to commit to the fact that it should be private because they haven't made the effort to obviously keep people away, but at the same time they're making some effort to keep people away. So information is getting out no matter what. And there'll always be leaks and things, I mean, we've heard a lot from internally from the teams prior to the preseason test. I mean, one that comes to mind is Honda having their concerns about their power unit. So we were always going to find stuff out. But in terms of, we've been given the fastest lap times for all the cars, which in theory doesn't really matter very much because obviously, teams are just doing setups. None of the teams are running at race pace, They're all just getting comfortable with the car, the new regulations. It's testing. It's not, a practice session, for instance. But at the same time, we're still being given all the lap times.
But we're being given the lap times by unofficial sources, and that is definitely something we will talk about going into the individual team discussions, as we shall, in a little bit. What I do want to catch up on first, before we, spend too long talking about the privacy of this test.
No, we're getting sidetracked somewhat.
Sidetracked a tiny bit, but also want to do a very brief whistle-stop tour on last season and what is changing going into 2026.
Absolutely.
So if you had not watched and caught up, we obviously had Lando Norris won the championship in a very dominant McLaren, tight battle with Max Verstappen for his Red Bull, and Oscar Piastri in third, the other member of the McLaren camp.
Obviously, Piastri started the season very strong and was looking like the championship favourite while Red Bull was still working itself out. But then obviously Norris, after coming off of quite a lot of early mistakes, it's a fair assessment. He managed to obviously then pull it together, and the tables kind of turned with Piastri being the one starting to make more mistakes, notably in Baku, where, lap 1 DNF, which is never going to help you with a championship push. But then Verstappen made one of the greatest charges from as far back as he was in history, at least recent history. And the fact that he'd gone from over 100 points behind to then being within reach of the championship. It was like, 3 points between him and Norris?
It was a 2-point difference.
That was it.
By the end, I believe.
The fact that he was able to do that, I mean, obviously McLaren mistakes and the double DNF 2 races prior as well contributed somewhat to his ability to catch up. But there's no mistaking the fact that he put on that he proved why he's a 4-time champion in his performance last season. And I think a lot of people who previously held some contempt for him in the way that he was always winning, they held a lot more respect for him, post last year. Sorry.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot less contentment for him by the end of last year,
and that does tend to be the case no matter what. When a driver has sort of ended their dominant period but still is popular, you're gonna see that. It's what happened with Vettel. It's what happened with Lewis. It's what happened with Fernando and Schumacher. All of these great drivers in the last 20 years, they all went through these same sort of swings and roundabouts.
Quite literally, anyone who's won for a prolonged period of time consistently gets hatred for it. But because it's boring to the general viewer to see the same person win again and again.
Indeed.
Obviously, if you're a fan or if there's good racing regardless, doesn't matter as much, but you can completely understand if every single race was, Verstappen winning or Hamilton winning or literally anyone winning, you'd get a little bit tired of it.
Absolutely.
You begin to grow some amount of disdain for the person who was winning everything.
And that's why certain championship years like 2012 comes to mind, where it's a close battle, and obviously you have your front runners, but at the same time, in spite of that, you still get these other race winners coming in, and it keeps things tight, it keeps things competitive. I mean, obviously, 8 different race winners, in the first half of the season in 2012. That you just didn't see that in the last few years, and that's what people crave. And obviously now, to segue into the next point, we have new regulations going in, which in theory should level the playing field somewhat, allow some of the teams that are further back to catch up, some of the teams that are a bit further ahead possibly to fall back. It's all about the interpretation of these new regulations.
Yes, 2026 is a brilliant jumping on point. With the new regulations, new teams, I'd say new drivers. It's kind of just one.
A little,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, it's a tiny bit. Returning drivers.
Some returning.
Yeah. Going from
veterans.
2026, we've got the changes that the former Sauber team, which has been around for absolutely forever,
absolutely.
has been fully converted into Audi. They've been undergoing a program for the past 3 years, I believe it is,
Something
to slowly
like that,
convert the team into a factory Audi team. The other major one is that there's a new 11th team on the grid, Cadillac.
After obviously a lot of litigation in the past, Andretti Cadillac at one point trying to work with IndyCar champion and former Formula One driver Michael Andretti, son of 1979 champion Mario Andretti. They've been trying a long time to 78. Sorry, yeah, 79. Schechter, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Sorry. Yeah,
you think
get it.
me hosting a podcast? I'll see myself out now.
Yeah, no, that's
but
it.
yes,
I'll be doing the rest of the podcast on my own.
But yeah, Cadillac's been trying to make this push into Formula One for quite some time, and they have got a roadmap ahead. Obviously, they want to move towards being a factory works team themselves, with making their own power units. So they've got a lot of weight behind them, just like Audi does. Coming in with the support of a large manufacturer, the budget that comes with that. So while obviously this first year is going to be, don't have high expectations for Cadillac or Audi, but over the next few years as they develop, as they get their sort of feet in the ground, that's when they're going to start to perform, hopefully. I mean, it's like Mercedes when they first joined in 2010. It took them, 3 years before the 2013 season to then build a car that was capable of, fighting and winning races by that point. So, it's that time to develop that they need now. And that research that they get in these first few years are going to be absolutely crucial to that. So keep an eye on them, but don't have high expectations either.
Yeah, it's teething issues they're going to run into mainly. The kind of the problems that come with starting any new team. But regardless...
I'd say especially for Cadillac, because obviously Audi's inherited... Not that Sauber was ever a great team,
but they have the technology there.
Exactly.
They've got the bases.
They've inherited that from them at least. So Cadillac are going in completely fresh. They've not taken over another team like Audi did. With a slow.
True. It is all
it's
brand new
from the start.
It's all brand new staff. It's all brand new facilities. It's all brand new everything besides the engine. That's just nicked from someone else.
Yeah.
Until they can make their own. However, we will definitely talk about their teething issues shortly. But lastly, before we move on to the actual shakedown test,
indeed,
just want to discuss briefly the new regs as going into the reason why there are 3 tests, including this shakedown and then 2 other
pre-season
broadcast pre-season tests that are going to be in Bahrain. We will, which we'll definitely cover once those are done.
Don't you worry. If you like this episode, just you wait.
There's plenty to come.
Unfortunately for you.
Yeah. But no, the new regulations, essentially the drag reduction system of old has been removed, replaced with an active aero system that changes around the lap based on whether you're on a straight or on a corner, and it can be adjusted by the driver themselves. There is also something which they keep changing the name of. I don't know what it's called anymore. It was called manual overdrive mode, but I think they've changed the name. I'm going to call it push to pass, because that's what
it's essentially what it is.
It's push to pass. And it essentially allows you to go into a boosted mode to try and overtake when within a second of a driver around a whole lap.
A similar sort of setup to the way DRS used to work, where you could open the flap on the straight and get that extra boost down the straight from the reduction of drag, funnily enough. But it's done entirely mechanically now, without aerodynamic interference. The aerodynamics obviously are they reduce around on the straight, and then just before a corner, the active aero system will basically, if you look at the testing footage, hopefully that comes out soon in a higher resolution, you'll see the front and rear wing suddenly pop back up before the corner, and that'll give that extra needed downforce into the corner, and then it'll go back to popping itself back down, reducing drag on the straight.
Or at least that's from what we've understood. Where neither of us come from a particular engineering background.
No, sir, we are not mechanics. We are not mechanics.
And then the final one is the change in engines. We're sticking with the turbo hybrid engines, but they've gotten rid of it's the MGU-H that they've gotten rid of.
Indeed.
And they're making the MGU-K about 3 times its power.
Yeah, there's a lot more reliance on the electrical power in the new power
unit. A lot
more
energy is from this electrical component in the car, which will, in theory, slow it down a bit, but realistically, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, but we are yet to see.
We're yet to see. I mean, drivers have reported so far that the cars are very fast on the straights, so who's to say? But one of the things that is to be noted with these new power packs is the sound. There is a definite change in the noise. That's thanks to the removal of the MGU-H. Obviously, that almost acted as a muffler in previous years that sort of dampened the sound coming out of the V6 engine. So the cars do sound different going into this new year, and I've seen a lot of split opinions thus far on the engine sounds, depending on the power units. That's the other very interesting thing. The power units can they all produce their own very unique noise. The Honda especially comes to mind there. You can kind of roughly blindfold tell which engine is which from just the sound alone, and that should help to improve the character of the cars a little bit as well.
Fair enough. Right. In which case, should we start cracking on with the super secret private shakedown test?
Yes, the not so private shakedown.
Perfect.
So, where should we start? I think we should start with the team that has completed the most laps.
I say we order this by, as it is mainly to test reliability of the power unit, I have ordered this by power unit.
Perfect.
So we start with the Mercedes.
Yes.
With the factory team of AMG Mercedes. And a quick question for you. Do you think, out of the gate, from watching these, this bit of shakedown testing, do you think that Merc are going to win the championship?
Well, it's interesting. It is interesting, because obviously these regulations, unlike the last set of regulations were very much aerodynamic based with the ground effect cars. These cars now are a lot more, geared towards, not that there isn't a sort of focus on aerodynamics as well, but they are definitely more geared towards the new powertrains. But what I would say, no matter what, obviously Merc is looking very strong in this private test. But at the same time, if we cast our minds back to 2022 pre-season testing, obviously Mercedes unveiled their car with no side pods, which a lot of people at the time sort of went, "Ooh, that's going to be game changing." That car started
strange one, yeah.
But that car in testing was very strong. They looked like they were going to continue their success from 2020 and 2021 and continue to have, top 3, maybe even the fastest car. So there's a lot to be said about the Mercedes right now, especially its reliability. But I think the reliability is the main takeaway, not necessarily the pace. I mean, a lot of teams as well have been sandbagging in this private test, and not all of them running their cars at full race pace. So, I mean, Merc definitely looked like a very, very strong team coming off of this test, but to be able to make a prediction this early about their championship chances, I feel isn't going to be... It's not going to reflect fairly on us when, December comes around and they're either, first in the championship or fourth, So they definitely look strong. There's no taking that away from them, especially the reliability of their engine. I mean, they've managed to complete... I think they've completed the most laps, if I'm not mistaken.
They have. So Merc, essentially the reliability is their biggest strength from this test.
Absolutely.
They've completed 500 laps in 3 days with practically no reliability issues at all. Small, minor, issues that come with a brand new car.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the teething. This is the teething period.
Yeah. But they look incredibly strong reliability-wise, and in an engine formula where there's a lot of new power units, and I mean, we've got a total of 5 on the grid this year, and there is a lot of chat about reliability, and if things are going to break down easier, and if there's going to be a lot of engine faults that make races. And so having that reliability is a brilliant foundation for them to start building
that always comes in at the beginning of a season as well, the sort of questions about reliability, or the beginning of a new set of regulations, I mean, especially powertrain focused ones, such as like 2014 when we first received the turbo hybrid engines. There's always going to be a lot of chatter about their reliability when they're coming in fresh, and Mercedes thus far, whether that's powering the factory team in the McLaren or even the Williams, and obviously going into this season they'll be powering Alpine as well. But Mercedes, their powertrain for the last at least 5 years has been, strongly dependable. It's been very reliable. I mean, McLaren, I think, have had, aside from Norris's engine failure in the Netherlands last year, they've not had a mechanical DNF in quite some time. So, they've been pretty good on the reliability front even then. And, continuing with that strength is going to be a big asset in their toolbox for the Mercedes-powered teams.
I was going to say, I think McLaren's last mechanical DNF before Piastri, I want to say it was... sorry, not Piastri, before Norris in Netherlands.
Yeah.
I want to say it was Piastri in
Bahrain, wasn't it? Yeah.
In 23, when they of the gates, they were woeful.
And I don't even think that was an engine problem. I think that was on his steering wheel, wasn't it?
I think it was either steering wheel, or it might have honestly be coolant.
I don't think it was engine is the point, but I digress. Yeah. We could be wrong. It's a while ago.
It was still like he was in and out of the pits again and again, and then eventually
there was no point running him.
He's got to sit out.
So McLaren, and obviously by virtue of the power unit being shared, Mercedes and other Mercedes customers, they're going into this with the reputation of having strong reliability. And it looks like that is, if we can take anything away from this test, it's that the reliability of the engine itself is pretty strong.
Yes. Now, speaking of those teams,
going on to the point of McLaren, though, they
yes, indeed,
they've still sort of shared that same reliability with the engine, but other components, regarding was it a fuel pump issue?
It was fuel pump. It was on their second day of running.
Right.
Piastri was meant to be in the car, and they had fuel pump issues, so they had to sit out the whole day.
Oh God.
But thankfully, I believe that they didn't actually do any running with Piastri, so they could still do like 2 more days. But I'm not 100% certain on that. They might have had to skip 1 day because unfortunately it is quite hard to track accurate reports for everything due to some of it being shown on video and some of it not.
And obviously nothing's been properly officially reported by F1 themselves or by the teams themselves regarding technical data, so we've got a limited amount of information to go off of.
Yeah. However, on the story of McLaren, they did also admit in the in a small interview with I believe it was Andrea Stella, or maybe it was the head of technical. I really need to put better notes on this, but that they were struggling with integrating the new power units and trying them out with the car, which is an odd thing to admit. It's not like unexpected, but it's an odd thing to admit. It's not what you want
going in as the championship, winning team as well.
But
you're holding that championship, and you're going into this expected to be strong. But yes, at the same time, obviously, as a team that's had struggles, especially adapting to new regulations. I mean, 2022, when we first got the ground effect cars, they were obviously not very strong. They could get the odd...
Awful.
Well, yeah. They could get the odd decent result, but like I said, it was the odd result. It wasn't the regular. And obviously 2023 was... The start to the season for them was arguably worse.
Yeah, actually, that's a fair point.
They've struggled with the regulations, adapting to new regulations in the past. So while they're coming into this season, obviously as the title holders, a lot of people still have them as the title favourites, just going off of the strength they've currently shown. At the same time, their history does show us that this trend may not be so favourable for them.
Yeah, no, I certainly think that the way that they talk about it, McLaren like to, certainly as of recent, play the underdog card. So it kind of feels, maybe not that it is an actual struggle with the integration, though it is possible.
Yeah.
A lot more likely that they're just trying to hamper expectations with the Mercedes power unit. Because, of course, there's been so much hype built up behind the Merc engine, and everyone is expecting Mercedes themselves to do phenomenally, and thinking, okay, other teams are going to do great when they get that stuck in their car, but they're just trying to ease off on it a bit to save a bit of face. For example, if in the first round, McLaren are all the way back due to some sort of issue.
Yeah, and I mean, not to accuse anyone of anything, but I do feel like for the last few years, McLaren has had that sort of weird cult fan base that are a little bit. They take things a little bit too seriously, but not in the kind of not in the just diehard supporter way. More, death to the other teams. Max Verstappen is Satan himself. That kind of way. Not everyone, not everyone, admittedly, but knowing that they've got these fans and gently setting them up for the possibility that they may be disappointing going into the season, I feel like I'd do the same in their shoes as well.
I mean, that's the thing, is I've seen like a lot of... I feel like you get a lot of those fans for every team.
Oh yeah, but McLaren's have been the most vocal.
They're just, they're a lot louder for McLaren, but I can understand, but I think it's more of like a saving face, like PR-wise.
That's exactly what I mean, especially when you've got fans like that.
It could be anything. Now, speaking of saving face, let's move on to Williams.
Yes, a team that has got, I feel like Williams is the underdog team, They're what McLaren's trying to portray themselves as right now, at least. And they've, I feel like everyone, no matter who you're a fan of, you want to see Williams do well.
I feel like everyone wants to see Williams succeed.
Yes.
That being said...
It doesn't look like it's going to happen.
When you have openly stated that that 2025, a season where Williams got multiple podiums, came 5th in the Constructors, and had a phenomenal... both drivers finished in the top 10.
Yeah, great driver lineup. The best one they've had in quite some time.
Yeah. And then they say, we've sacrificed most of our 2025 so that 2026 can be extra good, only for neither of the cars to show up to the shakedown test.
Yeah.
It having failed three
times in the crash
and being
test,
30 kilograms over the expected weight. It's not looking particularly good for Williams.
No. Now, Williams has got, just like I was saying with McLaren's ability to interpret regulations, obviously 2019 saw a new set of regulations, mostly aerodynamics. They weren't really to the powertrains. But 2019, Williams absolutely struggled as well once again. They missed the first 2 testing sessions. Their car was a heap. The 2019 Williams, it was comfortably the worst car on the grid by some margin. And it showed that, they were behind on schedule. And obviously, at the time, Williams hadn't come off of a particularly, nothing to write home about with 2018. Obviously, certain other seasons in the hybrid era, they have had, a strong showing. 2014 springs to mind. They performed quite admirably in 2014. But 2019 was their worst season in recent history by some margin. And in spite of having, George Russell and Robert Kubica as the drivers at the time, 2 strong drivers, both of which have challenged, or at least have been in the position to challenge for a championship in the past. Well, maybe not quite, but arguably so, for Kubica at least. You look at that, and yet the car was so far off the mark, and I can't help but feel like we're in for the same this year to come, With all the things that are being said, and obviously the evidence as well. Like you say, they're, just over... Is it just over 30 kilos over the the weight limit?
It's 30 kilos.
Yeah,
is what it is. Now I remember the 2019 Williams. That was the year of the Rocket Williams. So bad. They scored 1 point the whole season.
That was it. Yeah,
and it was at Hockenheim where I want to say it was Raikkonen and someone else got a penalty. That knocked them down, and so only because of that it pushed Kubica into scoring 1 point.
Obviously, in the time since then, you can almost sort of give Williams the benefit of the doubt with 2019, because in the time since then they've invested a lot more into their infrastructure, everything behind the bringing two cars and the equipment, the team, at the races, the factory, things like that, the simulators, everything from that to wind tunnel. They've invested a lot in the last few years, and they've made team changes, driver changes, and obviously the team principal James Vowles came in not so long ago. Things like that, the changes they've made should show that, they should get results that show that progression. But obviously it looks like we've just taken a huge step backwards, back to 2019. And that's what makes me feel very pessimistic about Williams this year. Like I say, we all want to see Williams do well, but I really just, being realistic, at least for now, until obviously we get cars in Melbourne actually, at race pace. Until then, I really can't say I'm confident in Williams at all.
I mean, thankfully, they have at least now. They've stated they've passed crash tests and they've got the cars ready, so they will make it through the preseason testing. However, while I wouldn't quite lean so hard on Williams are doomed, they're going to do horrendous, they still clearly have put an awful lot of work into this season.
Yes, no, absolutely.
And as such, I would say waiting until the preseason test and then eventually in Albert Park we'll truly see. But at least wait until the preseason test to make
I want to believe. Like I say, we all want to see Williams do well, but just my opinion on it is, based on the track record in the past, in new regulations eras, they've not hit the ground running particularly well. Even 2022 as well, they were still a backmarker team when the ground effect era began. So yeah. My hope and my pessimism are two separate things, because I'd like Williams to do well. I'd like them to be back up at the front, but from everything we've seen thus far, and obviously their inability to even show up at the private test, it just doesn't give me confidence. And I'm sure there are others that feel the same way about that as well.
Fair enough. Now,
another team that isn't coming in from a particularly great place, at least not from their last season.
The final Merc customer,
yes,
new for this year is Alpine, who are obviously once again limited running with it being Shakedown, but seemingly considerably better. They've had very little reliability issues over the Shakedown test from what we've heard.
Now,
Colapinto and Gasly seem to be having some amount of pace. Maybe they'll actually be able to show, Gasly will be able to show just how good a racer he is, and Colapinto will be able to show anything. So it's looking promising, but there's definitely more laps need to be done to truly judge the improvement of Alpine.
I mean, I was, not to say I was upset, because I think it is a good thing that they've moved their power unit, supplier to Mercedes. They're not a factory team anymore per se. But
I get it. It's a shame.
It is a shame is the word, because obviously Renault, and by virtue of being the same team under a different name, Alpine,
Team Enstone.
Yeah, they've had a long line of success. Even back when they were Lotus for a brief period of time, Lotus Renault in the sort of 2010s. They were able to put in good results. I mean, Renault at one point was supplying Red Bull at the beginning of Vettel's dominance.
Yeah.
They were able to, and obviously further back with Alonso beating Schumacher twice. Their powertrains have been good in the last 20 years.
And then also further back, before it was Renault, it was Benetton with Schumacher winning. Yeah, back in 94, 94, 95.
But for as long as Renault backed the project seriously, it always seemed like they did better when they got more support from the manufacturer. And obviously, having that support pulled from them in the last sort of few years, slowly but surely, you can see the decline. Because obviously they were fighting McLaren at one point for fourth in constructors, and then obviously from there it just sort of tumbled down, which is a shame, because I've always liked Renault. I always wanted them to do better. As an Alonso fan, I'm slightly nostalgic. I like to look back. And, you see the blue and yellow, and it just neuron activation.
Yeah, that's the old Mild 7 Renault. Was
The
just
R25, R26, beautiful cars.
Yeah.
And they performed well as well. You think of the feats that drivers like Alonso, Fisichella, and Trulli were able to perform in those cars. It's great.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously, you had drivers like Sainz, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg in and out, a bit of a revolving door for Renault.
A lot of good talent has gone through Renault or Lotus or even Alpine to a slightly lesser extent.
Yeah.
But Gasly and I mean Ocon, decent. He did only win because of Alonso's defending.
Yeah, Alonso's defense in 2021 in Hungary, it gave Ocon that opportunity, but he was still the man who won.
It's not like he drove poorly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like he drove
History
poorly
remembers the man who held the trophy with a 1 on it. That's the bottom line. So Alpine have consistently had, pretty good driver lineups. I'd say arguably the last sort of year, so 2025 to now, has been their weakest since 2020. They've, having Colapinto, not that Colapinto is obviously a bad driver at all. And obviously he's picked it up a lot in the last sort of few races of the last season. But at the same time, when they had Gasly and Ocon, or Ocon on Alonso, you could see the results kind of spoke for themselves a little bit more. And obviously you could see a lot more support from the manufacturer as well. But
I mean,
it's good to see them now in, with the Mercedes power unit. They're obviously at least made up that deficit in horsepower, because obviously in the last few years the Renault power unit has been down on power. I think it was like 9 horsepower less, something like that.
I don't know.
At least for last year, I think it was. So they to sort of have a power unit that can be on par with the others at least will give them a bit more competitive edge, I think.
I mean, the other thing I will say is that it certainly seems that Renault themselves don't really want to keep the F1 team around anymore.
No, it almost seems like they're hoping for it to die.
It feels like it's on sale every other weekend. It's like back in 2022 or 23, there was like the massive investment from a number of different sportsmen and celebrities.
Yes.
And then there was the rumours it was being bought out by High Tech before the whole Ollie Oaks thing happened. And now there's rumours that it's going to be bought out by Christian Horner and a consortium of investors.
Because I would say a lot of investors have put their money into Alpine lately.
Kind of similar to like how Racing Point was bought out from Force India.
Yes.
Back in the day. I said like 2020.
Yeah, so 6 years ago, 7
or
years
2019,
ago.
That kind of time. But
around that period, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's a good point. And obviously, Alpine, I would expect to come into this season around the same place as they were last year. They'll have a bit more power from that engine, but even just their livery is obviously cut and copy from last year. I feel like they are sort of approaching this in the same manner. So we're yet to see. We're yet to see.
I would disagree. I think that they probably might be a little bit better, but we will see. There are still needs time to judge the improvement. Now, that's the Merc power unit done. We need to move on to Ferrari.
Yes.
And the first thing I want to say is, as someone who is a
lifelong Ferrari fan, the both of us,
lifetime Ferrari fan,
both of us,
I looked at the shakedown testing information, and when it was starting, I had no hope. I was expecting nothing. I was expecting the engine to be woeful, Merc to dominate all, Red Bull to be second, and nothing from the Maranello camp. But it's nowhere near as bad as expected. The engine certainly, so far, seems to actually have a decent amount of reliability, certainly in the factory team. And thanks to the unofficial lap times of the dedicated members of F1 Twitter who stake out
Those
in random trees
sleuths.
and watch stuff, the supposed fastest lap of Shakedown was by Hamilton.
Yes, and
now,
just to add on to that point, it's refreshing as a Ferrari fan, especially to see how, obviously, we saw the way that team broke Lewis Hamilton down last year. To hear him optimistic following the testing, with him going on record saying that he's looking like he definitely feels like the team is in a much better position this year following the testing. That's a good sign. And I don't want to get all this year is our year yet, because a lot remains to be seen. But to hear the drivers having a lot more faith in the car this year is a breath of fresh air.
I mean, I personally stand in the other camp where I think he's just fully integrated into Ferrari in the delusion. You know, he's...
well, I mean, it's where we've been for the last 15
exactly.
so years.
Every single year you'll have Charles Leclerc saying, yeah, we feel like we're in a much better spot this year. And I will follow that man to hell and back. I just wish he'd stop going to hell.
Yes, I agree.
But so far it's looked decent. It has looked promising.
It's weird to approach this, obviously, with all of our talking points that we've prepared, with not so much to say about Ferrari.
It's there's kind of not tons to say. They went out, they did reliability tests.
Yes.
They kind of came back. Unfortunately, a lot of the talking points have been about the Merc teams, because there's just a lot more going on with them.
There is a lot more, yeah. And obviously they are expected by many commentators to be the front runners, at least for a Mercedes-powered car to be at the front.
Yeah. Now, I think that's probably about all from Ferrari.
There's not really much else that's been said so far that I'm aware of.
So on to Haas, the next team. Which
Haas themselves did not, while being obviously powered by that same Ferrari engine, did not enjoy that same reliability.
They didn't. They had a major fault on the Monday, and so needed parts flown in over the week. So there's massive delays for them, and they only got 2 days of running, I believe.
Which isn't ideal.
No, it is completely
minor inconvenience.
yeah, just a tiny one, not being able to test at the specific testing session.
Yeah.
But I will say obviously there's been the announcement that they are forming like a full partnership with TGR, which is awesome. It is big. So cool to see Toyota at least dipping their toes back in the sport.
Especially, after all those years away, it's great to see that they, especially as, Toyota in racing generally has found a bit of a groove in the last sort of 10 or so years, with multiple wins at Le Mans. Not to say that they were struggling beforehand, obviously, but they were the way they've built up their confidence with those Le Mans wins, moving into like rally, things like that. They've made a big push, and it shows.
With the endurance series, like their hypercar program is fantastic.
Yeah, they
wiped the floor with pretty much everyone for as of recent in rally, only losing out to it was Thierry Neuville for Hyundai for 2024. But that was incredible.
Yeah, in the championship. But yeah, exactly. Like they've gone from strength to strength in the last decade, and I think approaching it systematically, one by one, one motorsports at a time, it's definitely benefited their approach. And now they're sort of, I think the best way, they've realised it's the best case scenario to sort of at least support an F1 team, an existing one, before eventually maybe starting their own again. Obviously we lost Toyota, what was it, 18 years ago? Something around that margin. It could be less, could be more. I'm not good at maths, but
no, it's fine. If you give me a sec, I can check. Hold on.
It's not important, but it's just the fact of the matter is, to see them slowly build that confidence back in Formula One as a sport following, their exit after the financial crisis. I think they ended at 2009. I think that was their last season.
Yeah. It was
the financial crisis. So
it was 2009.
Yeah. To see them return, even in a title sponsor form, is refreshing and does provide us hope and speculation for their future in the sport.
Yeah. No, very nice.
Just to quickly add on to that, I don't think it'll be long before we see Toyota do something very similar to Honda and possibly start producing a power unit for Haas. Maybe not a full team takeover, but my prediction in the next sort of 5 years or so is that Toyota, if they continue this partnership, may begin, the procedure of becoming an engine supplier.
It wouldn't surprise me if there was something along those lines if they did start providing for Haas as a factory team.
Yeah.
But I think that's definitely, they will It will not be until the next regulation change,
No.
which I think
Obviously,
is
it's just loose
2030.
speculation at the moment.
Yeah. But no, I think besides some reliability issues, they had some like a couple of red flags and the major fault at the start of the week. But besides that, Haas looking pretty decent on the whole, nothing too crazy.
Which is good to see.
Yeah, car looks fantastic.
It does.
But
It does.
We'll be talking about liveries when they're all fully revealed. We've still got 4 to go. We still got the Aston, Williams, McLaren, and Cadillac.
That's it, yeah. So
yeah.
obviously those are coming in the next week and a bit. So, we'll be talking about that very soon. But
perfect. And
moving on to Cadillac.
Yeah. Speaking of Cadillac, a quietly promising start.
Yes.
There's obviously, as with any brand new team, we talked about it earlier, there's teething issues. There's going to be the problems of getting everything up to speed, everything with... I mean, a lot of parts are coming from Ferrari rather than being built in-house. But still, So basically from that, we're going to tell the Cadillac's going to explode.
Yeah, catch fire. Catastrophic detonation.
It will... But that being said, this test has been quietly promising. They haven't really shown any pace, as a lot performance is kind of unknown, because a lot of what they've done is just going out, doing test runs and getting laps in, getting data, fixing issues. They've had some problems.
It's what's to be expected from them though at this juncture.
Yeah,
as a brand new team, it's their first testing ever in the sport. They don't even have Sauber experience to go on, like we said with Audi. So Cadillac very much
fresh.
Is comfortably in that position that we sort of discussed earlier, where they're new and they may well be someone to look out for in the future. But this year, don't expect a significant amount from them in terms of their performance. Don't write them off. Don't count them out. But definitely don't expect them to be fighting at the front.
I think for actual performance, it's going to be really tough to tell, because we can't at this point. We need to at least wait until a little bit of testing and some races into the season. But I think they're definitely going about it in a better way. It feels a lot more professional. It feels like a proper outfit, even if it's still young and still growing and still getting everything together.
Their approach,
they feel a bit more serious than do you remember back when Haas joined?
Yeah, they were obviously not the most well funded, which is what gave way to things like the whole rich energy kind of thing, where they're just getting sponsors out of anywhere. But
it was a lump of chaos, and every year they were scrambling to find sponsors.
Yeah, but to see Cadillac, genuinely pursuing this as a serious investment as well for them. I think that's why their bid to join as a new team was accepted on the whole by Formula One management, because they sort of their way of their approach to things and the manner in which they've held themselves thus far. While obviously they, you could get behind the whole America fuck yeah kind of thing like Haas tried to do back in the day, which they don't really do. Even though Haas bills itself as America's Formula One team, they don't really lean into that much. But Cadillac is obviously a big American brand. It's universally recognizable. Even now, it evokes that image of the 50s America, that sort of, that imagery. Yeah. They are an American brand through and through, but they haven't, made that their focal point, which is nice to see as well. They approach this the same way they've approached their hypercar program in the World Endurance Championship. Which is, just serious about the racing. Image comes second, and that is, hugely refreshing. They're not looking to, obviously, their livery reveal kind of contradicts what I'm about to say, but they're not looking to make any big statement right now.
Well, they haven't done a livery reveal.
No, but Cadillac, you know what you know what they're planning to do.
Yeah,
right?
No, it's at the Super Bowl, isn't it?
Well, no. So they're going to put the car in Central Park in under a fogged glass thing, and then obviously that'll then disappear. But it will. No, but they're going to have it show at the Super Bowl halftime. It's just it's coming live from New York. So they'll have the glass then become clear during their ad in the halftime of the Super Bowl, and that's when the livery will be revealed to the public. So
I know, like,
that's kind of a
practically
big
nothing about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I think I remember. It's either like it's at the same time as the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's
and they go,
during
like,
their
broadcast
halftime show,
probably.
you know.
Okay.
So they're like the Super Bowl at halftime normally has a big sort of musical performance by someone. Last year I think it was Kendrick Lamar. This year it's going to be Green Day.
I do know that it's Green Day and Bad Bunny. I
that's
think
it.
are the
So
two
and then they also
artists.
have it's also famous for the ads and things that get made for it. And one of those ads this year is for Cadillac and their Formula One team. So that'll be where they reveal their livery for the first time.
Yeah.
Which, like I say, it kind of contradicts what I'm saying about not trying to, build up an image, make a huge statement. But aside from that sort of big livery reveal, they have sort of followed that trend.
And also, running back on the point of trying not to make it America's F1 team, it's also they are introducing this car at the biggest sporting event in America.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to obviously have the nation rally around you at all, but
I definitely understand.
They've not used it in their imagery, as far as I'm aware. I mean, we haven't seen the car yet. It could just be Stars and Stripes.
Like the biggest sporting event in America that is not very well broadcast in other parts of the world.
No.
So it is like you maybe here in Britain, you maybe know one person that watches American football, and like even they just won't talk about it. It'll be like a dirty pleasure of theirs that they watch it in the middle of the night or something.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Like I say, like it doesn't hurt to have the nation's support, to get that rallying point. But unless that car is just Stars and Stripes, Star Spangled Banner kind of imagery, it's not, overtly
it's not
American.
Too bad. Yeah. Like if they, I think it would be funnier if it was completely coated in the American flag. I think it would.
It could happen. It could happen. We don't know what this car's going to look like yet.
True. I don't think it would be good, but I think it would be funny.
I think they could make that work though. You imagine like the blue with the stars on the air.
I don't think
air
it would be
intake.
Cadillac in the slightest. Like,
no, but I reckon it could look good on the airbox with the blue and white.
Yeah, I mean,
and then the red and white. I think it was for a
liveries.
Special livery, but they wasn't permanent. I feel like it has the American flag has promise as a livery, but one that will not be realised as far as I'm aware.
No.
As far as I hope as well.
I don't think so. But no, maybe that's probably about enough on Cadillac.
Yeah.
But it is exciting to see them.
It is, and hopefully we wish them well. Obviously, we want to see them do all right, and obviously two veterans returning, two very well liked drivers in Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez. So they've got a lot of experience. So fingers crossed you can at least rely on that driver talent that they've got.
They'll definitely be good for helping develop the car.
Absolutely,
they'll be good at getting.
And that's another way in which Cadillac has obviously shown that they are serious. They've not just gone and hired the two cheapest contracts, two rookies. Yeah. They've brought in experience and wisdom.
Now, speaking of Sergio Perez and his former employer,
I love your little segues here. This is great.
Oh, you gotta try. I'm not just gonna say like, shut up. Let's talk about Red Bull now.
It's just speaking of, but yeah.
Speaking of
Red Bull and their new EcoBoost powertrain. The Ford engine actually coming out of the gates is looking quite impressive. Max Verstappen, seems quite pleased with it. Even surprised slightly. So that's a good sign for them. Hopefully,
the Ford engine is actually looking like it's got a bit of punch to it. Maybe not quite as much as Merc, but there's seemingly very little reliability issues.
Yeah.
However, there is a bit of a large elephant in the room, being Hadjar's crash.
I was about to say by the name of Isaac Hadjar.
Yeah. I am so wishing that Isaac does well. Like,
yes,
I really
absolutely.
want Hadjar to do well. However,
he's been given the job that nobody in the sport wants.
He has been given the poison chalice that is the second Red Bull seat.
Yeah.
And he did go out in pretty tricky conditions.
Yes.
And unsurprisingly, he had what was called in the media a small off, which if you look at the video footage
it was definitely not.
from a Spanish tree, it was spinning around and going backwards into a wall.
Which destroyed the rear suspension.
Yes, it means that they were honestly concerned that they couldn't run the car for the rest of testing and had to get more parts machined and shipped over, much like Haas. However, when everything was sorted and Verstappen got in the car and got out on track, it performed pretty damn well.
Yeah.
So it's definitely more of an issue that will become hopefully less and less as Hadjar gets more used to the car.
Yeah, and obviously
as they have more parts and get further.
And obviously
into
where
the
conditions
season.
as well are more favourable. Like you say, he went out at a time that nobody really wants to drive, especially a brand new car. You're trying to shake it down. You don't want wet weather, at least not while you're still figuring out how the car even behaves in the dry.
It was wet weather and it's been cold most of the Shakedown, whereas next for the pre-season, going somewhere quite warm in Bahrain, which is much more optimal for testing. But I think pretty promising for Red Bull on the whole.
Yes.
The same cannot be said for their sister team.
I was about to say that myself.
VCarb had a pretty damn good year last year with Hadjar and Lawson.
They're best in some time, must be said.
They're best in a long amount of time, scoring a podium with Hadjar.
Yes.
One of the main things leading to his promotion. I mean, Lawson got a P3 in qualifying in Baku. There were some fantastic drives.
They had good pace, and the drivers both performed very admirably. Obviously Hadjar had that little slip at the first round of the season, but he picked it up from there. He held his head up and he, got down and just put the work in, and that's what's important.
They were very impressive. Definitely fell off towards the end of the year, but still very impressive season regardless.
A lack of development there, I think, at the end. But it just that trend just has not carried over so far from what we've seen.
Currently, both cars have had stoppages.
Yes.
On track, causing red flags. For both Lawson and the new driver, Arvid Lindblad, meaning there are now 5, technically 6, British drivers on the grid.
If you thought there were too many before.
Yeah, if you thought there was British bias before, just wait, there's more. But, no, it's just looking a bit less reliable. They haven't come forward saying what the issues have been for the cars, whether it has been a power unit issue, in which case Red Bull just got quite lucky, or if there's other aspects of the car that they are struggling to keep running or whatever. But it's not been the most productive testing for VCarb. Hopefully they can get it sorted in the further tests.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I think that's all on the Red Bull powertrain. Essentially, just
there's not so much been said apart from obviously the crashes, the stoppages, the issues with VCarb. Really,
it's surprisingly promising on the whole for the powertrain, but definitely VCarb are running into some issues. So whether that's going to carry over to the full power unit issue, because of course last time Ford made a power unit in F1, it was very much not good.
Yes. But another team that has had mixed success with power units in the past. Obviously, Honda are returning to supply Aston Martin's engines. Honda is a team that has supplied good engines to Red Bull, bad engines to McLaren, but then also good engines to McLaren back in the 90s, well, the 80s and 90s. So their success in Formula One is very varied, and obviously as an Alonso fan I have mixed feelings about seeing him driving a Honda powered car again.
An Alonso powered car.
Well, I mean, for every car that Alonso drives is Alonso powered. That man, his ability to drive that car to the limit, especially in Aston Martin, never ceases to amaze. But Honda's return has been curious because they're obviously they've put a lot of work and time into developing this new powertrain, but Honda themselves have voiced their doubts about the engine as well as its power output.
It's a strange one, considering with the hype around Adrian Newey coming in to build the car, there was a massive expectation for Aston to at least be decent.
Yes.
But the closer and closer we were getting to Shakedown testing, the more and more comments were coming out saying, well, maybe there's going to be this little issue, and maybe this isn't going to be quite perfect, and maybe you should curb your expectations a little bit, which is a little bit concerning.
That's not what you want to hear.
It is quite concerning.
Not what you want to hear.
It's most likely going to be a powertrain issue with it being a brand new powertrain. Now, the other thing, the aero design of the Aston is incredibly unique looking. It's, if I could put up a picture of it now, I 100% would. But
I'd have to excuse myself to the bathroom if I did. It is unquestionably the best looking car. Obviously, we haven't seen a livery for it yet, but I will put my money on it now that will be the best looking car of this season.
How much are you going to put on it? How much?
I don't have a lot at the moment. I'm currently spending all my money.
I'll take you there.
I've got a 5p coin on my desk, so I'll put that there. I'll put my money where my mouth is.
We'll do. Yeah, that's
5 pence that the Aston Martin is the best looking car. Obviously, that aerodynamic design, it does resemble early 2000s sort of that wacky kind of aero, and I'm very optimistic that at least from the aerodynamic side of things, that car will be strong. That's the hope. Obviously, the powertrain is where the questions lie. And obviously, Alonso himself has said that it's been a stressful few weeks to even get the car, in a position that it can attend the shakedown and then put laps in. Even though, obviously, of all the cars that actually did run in testing, Aston Martin put the least amount of laps in as far as we know. So they are sort of still a little bit of a grey area in terms of where we might think their performance is, because there are so many questions in the air. But they undoubtedly have a lot of backing and financial, support. So I could see them being either a front runner or possibly even a back marker if that engine is so, off the pace. So it really is. They are just a very much an unknown,
they're
factor.
An unknown quantity.
Yes,
they are an unknown quantity for the fact that, and also. They could only show up Thursday and Friday. Thursday, they got the car out, did 5 laps, and then it broke down. So they've only it's 65 laps they've done total over the 2 days of running, which is considerably less than most of the other teams.
Yeah.
And it means that we know basically nothing about their pace, or even we know their reliability is at least not fantastic.
No.
But that it seems to be the issues coming from powertrain. Pace itself, we'll have to see from the aero, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's looking bad, but I would say that it might not be
question marks.
It might not be a good start to the season for Aston.
No, there will be question marks, for no doubt about it. Yeah. And obviously, as much as there is a lot being made about Adrian Newey's, joining, he's not always hit the mark on some of his cars. Obviously, in I think it was 2004 with McLaren, they had to completely switch their car halfway through the season because the car they started with just was not cutting it in terms of the performance. I think it was 2004. I could be wrong, but I remember the 2003 and 2005 cars being particularly fast, even if the 2005 one broke down every other race. So I think 2004, but that doesn't matter. The point is, Adrian Newey. Not that I want to entertain the thought, but he has not always been, on for a winner, should we say.
That's fair. Now, speaking of new powertrains, speaking of...
And segue!
Yes. I should just have a segue button that just plays like... and I just allow... in old cartoons when they're like... that's it. That's what I'm trying to go for.
That's exactly what I was thinking myself.
To segue into other shit.
But yes, Audi.
This
is a big one, obviously. They are coming in. They have the financial support of the Volkswagen empire. So they've got a lot of money going into this project. Audi is obviously a serious racing team in other, categories of racing, whether it be, you think maybe not necessarily in the last 5 years or so they've made headlines, but they've got racing pedigree and racing heritage. You think in the early 2000s with the R8 in Le Mans, obviously multiple wins. Then further back in rally with the Quattro, two. I think it was 2 World Rally Championships. That's they do come as someone, as a market as a manufacturer with a lot of racing heritage and pedigree, and I feel like they're gonna hopefully be able to, eventually prove that in Formula One as well. It's the same as what I said earlier about them and Cadillac. They're obviously coming into this. This is all new for them. Not entirely as new as it is for Cadillac, obviously, with the fact that they used to be Sauber. They've absorbed Sauber's former assets and everything. But at the same time, they are still, as a manufacturer, and obviously as a powertrain manufacturer, very new to Formula One. So there is much teething to be seen, and as has been seen in testing so far.
Yes, I mean, the thing with Audi is, as they have taken over another team, there is at least the groundwork of like headquarters and equipment and manufacturing facilities. But they've had to, for this year, they are creating their entire new power unit, which is where they probably, I wouldn't say a step down from Cadillac, but definitely they've got a lot more issues to focus on, with the fact that Cadillac, they've got all the data from the Haas and the Ferrari. They've also got like a lot more parts from the Ferrari camp, whereas Audi, it's all in-house now. So, and as there are no other cars running the same engine as the Audi, if something's wrong, the only way you can test it is yourself. You can't get data from anything else. You can't see how other people are managing the engine. So you've got to work solely on what you've got. And there's been a lot of teething issues with this test. There's plenty of red flags from stoppages for both Bortoleto and Hulkenberg.
That's what I was going to say. It's
looking not promising for the moment.
I was going to say myself, what I was going to add to that is, I would not be surprised if Audi, obviously Audi and Cadillac are the two most comparable teams, but I personally think Cadillac might just perform better based on that. They don't have the experience as running as a team, but they've got, not that I want to say that Ferrari has a history of reliable powertrains, but they've got that tried and tested, Ferrari, at their best, do know how to build an engine, jokes aside. So, like you say as well, they've got other teams to compare themselves to, and that can help them if really needs must. So they've got that gentle sort of net of support in terms of at least the power unit stuff. So while they might, and obviously they also have a lot of financial backing themselves. Obviously GM, they have the money to invest into the infrastructure they need. So I expect Cadillac out of the two new teams, Cadillac, I feel like we shouldn't be surprised if we see them finish higher eventually come the end of the championship season.
I think either of them is a likely one. But the thing I will say about Audi is, despite the fact they are obviously struggling with the reliability, but we know practically, because of the reliability issues, we know practically nothing about their pace. This could be a situation where they've got a really, really good power unit, but it's just really prone to shutting down.
It could be 2005 McLaren, where, like I say, it wins a race, then DNFs at the next one, then wins a race, then DNFs at the next one. Or it could be plagued by the ghost of Andrea de Cesaris himself, and it will just give up while having not the best pace at the best of times.
I mean, at the very worst, it could be like the, so some of the old, like Williams of old, where it would drive around right at the back of the grid, and then it will catch fire, and then no one will be surprised, because it's like,
same as last week,
Yeah. Two drivers that are used to it by now.
Yeah. So, but, that's the rundown on the teams. And you'll be able to join us in the next 2-3 weeks for our predictions of where the drivers and teams will place in the championship, at least for the first half of the season. So we won't speculate too much on that now, but you do have that to look forward to. And
obviously we'll be doing a rundown on further testing, the two other
the actual pre-season tests at Bahrain.
Weekend. Yeah.
So there's that to look forward to as well. But just on the point of testing, before we move on to anything else, something that we wanted to discuss as well was testing at the private test, at least, and in past years, the pre-season test has been done at Barcelona, the Circuit de Catalunya. So should F1 testing be done at a track that isn't on the calendar? Because one of the things that we ourselves have sort of shared as an opinion, while obviously not being able to voice that outside of that, just our own discussions, has been that the reason Barcelona never, when it comes time for the Spanish Grand Prix during the actual season, the teams already have so much data for that track. They all go in, knowing as much as each other. Basically, it doesn't produce great racing because there's less unknown factors, and it's our opinion that testing should be done at a track that isn't featured on the F1 calendar.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the big thing, or a big talking point in the pub. It always comes back round is that testing has been so much in done around Circuit de Catalunya that they just have so much data that the race becomes so dull because everyone knows the perfect setup and everyone knows everything about it.
Exactly that.
And the question is, and I'll pose it to you first. Do you think that either one, we should do that, should test somewhere that isn't Barcelona, or two, we shouldn't race at Barcelona?
It's a good thing you asked that because I was going to answer that question myself just a moment later. My opinion is, and there is evidence to back this up, Barcelona as a track produces some really good racing, but never in Formula One. And I think that's purely down to the fact that like we say, it's everyone already knows what they're doing. Everyone knows the setup they need. There's so much data for that track. Other racing series have shown that the Catalonia circuit is very good for racing. So I think I'm very much in the camp that I think Barcelona has the potential to definitely produce great racing, but we should test at a different track. Go to Jerez or to somewhere else, like obviously the French circuits like Magny-Cours or Paul Ricard. Obviously, Paul Ricard is a circuit with infinite testing possibility and potential. So somewhere like that would be a much better place for testing to occur, regardless. What do you think?
I'm kind of really on the fence. I think the problem is, the Circuit of Catalonia has had a lot of pretty good races over the years. It's had some fantastic stuff, both in Formula One and other racing series as well.
Yeah.
I'm quite fond of it for MotoGP as well, as they race there. But I'd say that realistically, with the introduction of the Madring, which is something we will definitely talk about.
Yes, we'll get to that
in another episode
next week.
Next week it is. We'll mention that in a bit. Mm-hmm. But with the introduction of the Madring, I'm not against binning it off the calendar and keeping it for testing, because it is a pretty damn good testing.
It is. It has proven that it's good for it.
Well, it's because there's so much data about there already that it would be stupid to try and move to a different circuit where a lot of these modern cars have not been testing their year in, year out, and change that up. It would be better. I mean, which thankfully in 2027 they are doing. It would be better, as there's now a Spanish Grand Prix.
Yes.
Replace, at the Madrid, replace Barcelona Catalunya with Portimao, because that is a track that, while not quite the same, it kind of has a bit more bumpy, a bit more undulating, but a kind of similar vibe to me.
Yes, it has that same sort of flow through the corners.
Yeah. And if the Madrid is particularly awful, then there's no harm in moving back or then trying a different circuit out.
Absolutely.
But I think on the whole, I'd rather see F1 move away from racing at Catalonia than moving testing to somewhere else, because it means that people wouldn't have any data to really compare it to without previous testing at the circuit. So I guess if they move it to another very well-known circuit, I mean, Silverstone would make a decent amount of sense for a lot of teams.
Yeah, there's obviously, Silverstone has been on the calendar almost as much as, but every track that's, it's like top 3 most used circuits, I think.
Yeah, I think behind
Monza and
Spa.
yeah. So
But
there's obviously a lot of data, no matter what year you look at, for Silverstone. Really.
yeah. But I do think the other issue is that Silverstone, Britain, during January,
Not the
February,
place for testing.
no, those cars are going to be in the mud very quickly.
Yes.
So I understand why they do it somewhere drier, like Catalonia.
Well,
But
I mean, obviously, a lot more remains to be seen regarding other tracks, and we can always speculate, and I'm sure we'll continue the discussion next week when we discuss the tracks in a lot more depth. We'll get onto that in a bit, but just to move along to our sort of final point for today, we just have a few headlines from outside of the Formula One world. So
if I just quickly
do begin.
It's a thing that we do. We're going to be doing every week. Is while we are mainly focusing on Formula One, and certainly if there's an F1 event going on, we're going to be focused mainly on that. We'll also bring up other light discussions from other series, catch up on some news. We'll do that each week at the end. And if there's something particularly interesting or that we've both seen, we'll definitely talk about it a bit more in depth. But the both of us watch different other motorsport series, so there's
going to be a lot of us telling each other about things. So you'll be able to experience with us whether you're a fan of Formula E, for instance, which Dootson really enjoys, or if you're a fan of NASCAR, which I particularly enjoy. Neither of us know very much about the other's chosen sort of motorsport there, in which I don't know much about Formula E. Dootson doesn't know very much about NASCAR, so we're very much going to be bringing information to each other, and obviously then to you as well. So there's a lot of discussion there, and a lot of learning going on. So there'll be a lot of that kind of discussion to come with some of these, and we may very much dip deeper into Formula E, NASCAR, endurance, rally, anything, depending on the week and what we fancy discussing at any given point. But if you want to start us off.
Yes, of course. I just want to start with opening up with the Daytona 24 Hours, or Rolex Daytona 24 Hours, which happened semi-recently. Not much to say about it, because a good chunk of it was taken up by fog. There was a massive amount of fog that came in over the track and led to a safety car or reduced speed section that lasted for like over 6 hours, which is a quarter of the race. But by the start and the end, it was nice and clear, and there was quite a close battle between the Porsche Penske number 7, which was eventually driven to victory by Felipe Nasser, and Jack Aitken behind, who had qualified on pole. But yeah, no, it was decent. Very long, and I only watched the highlights because I could not do the 24 hours. I unfortunately had stuff to do.
Yes, very much. And speaking of Daytona, and what I was talking about earlier with NASCAR, on the 15th of this month, we will be seeing the NASCAR Cup Series. The season begins with the Daytona 500. Now, just a few points on that. Obviously, the entry list isn't necessarily published yet, but what we can speculate, just based on the past as well, sort of two favourites for the win at the moment, possibly, are, first of all, you've got Ryan Blaney, who is going in as the current reigning champion, of the current Winston Cup winner. So he's got a very strong chance of continuing that trend into the first race of the season at the Daytona 500. But also, Will Byron has won the last 2 Daytona 500s in a row and was still a very strong contender throughout last year. So he still might be a front runner and possibly, possible winner for the 500. So there's a lot that remains to be seen, and we can only really speculate once we see a full entry list that is, published for certain. And the non-championship cookout clash that takes place the week before will definitely help us understand sort of where certain drivers and cars are, with Austin Dillon's Chevrolet being one that I've seen some speculation around, because Chevrolet are bringing some new bodywork. So there's a lot to speculate with Daytona, so I think that's going to be an enjoyable one.
That's good. So which day is the cookout clash?
Cookout clash is the weekend before the 15th. So that would be the
That'll be this weekend.
that's this weekend on the 8th.
Yeah,
7th or 8th, I think. So
7th or 8th. Okay. No, that's fine.
I don't know the date off by heart, but yeah, that'll be a good way for us to sort of get a rundown of where each driver's at.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I want to briefly mention WRC.
Yes, absolutely.
The rallying, which
we just had the Rally Monte Carlo, didn't we?
I was going to say, a Rally Monte Carlo happened not too long ago, which was won in a pretty dominant fashion by Oliver Solberg in his second rally for Toyota in the Rally 1 classification.
Just goes on to what we were saying earlier about Toyota in other motorsports. Yeah. It looks like it's just going to be another walkover for them, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it looks like it's going to be a bit of a walkover for Toyota, but currently, Solberg is 2 for 2. In wins in that rally car, so it could,
in terms of the drivers,
very much be a very dominant season. But it is still too early to tell. We'll definitely have to see it in a bit later. But he's looking pacey, and
absolutely.
Certainly, I don't see many people catching up too much. I mean, Elvin Evans was quite close, was like the closest behind in second, and Sebastian Ogier, who's won Rally Monte Carlo, I think about 10 times. Fantastic drive as well.
Yeah.
I also want to shout out for a good chunk of the race, John Armstrong, rookie in the Rally 1 classification, I believe.
Really?
In his M Sport, was up in 6th for a good chunk of time, and then fell down. And the guy who finished in 6th was Leo Russell in a Rally 2 car, which is insanely impressive to finish a like 6th compared to a bunch of other Rally 1 cars. Like that, that's really good work.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's obviously two. That's like a. It's not quite the equivalent of dragging a Formula 2 car to like a top 10 finish in Formula 1, but the division the difference in the speeds of the two divisions is very clear.
Yeah, I won't quite say it's quite often that you'll have Rally 2 cars.
There's not quite the same disparity between Formula 1 and Formula 2 as there is with Rally 1 and 2, but it is still incredibly impressive to see, putting a Rally 2 car up there on the timesheets with a Rally 1.
Well, it's also the fact that that you get a lot of the mixing between Rally 1 and Rally 2 around the lower end of the points.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that far up, that far up the order.
Yeah, get it in 6th is quite impressive. To get, there were a fair amount of crashes, but still beating a lot of them fair and square even before that. So it's pretty good on his part.
Yeah.
Now, our Formula E, my beloved, that I love oh so much. I think it's pretty good, but
this is what I'm here to listen and learn.
Yes, it's definitely it isn't my favorite racing series besides Formula 1 anymore. That's definitely been taken by MotoGP, but I'll get onto that afterwards because there's been a lot of news from that. But Formula E, we've had 3 races so far this year, a different winner for each of them, and it's kind of hard to pick out consistency because there's been a lot of chaos, and we've just gone to a brand new track in a shortened, very weird-looking version of the Miami International Autodrome, the one that they use for Formula 1, but a different configuration, which, as a Formula E track, it's okay. It wasn't bad. There was some pretty good battling. With the charge, like the battle between Drugovic and Verline was pretty good for a good chunk of the race. And there was a fantastic charge from Mitch Evans on to win the most recent one. But realistically, there's been very little consistency-wise between the races, besides that during the first 2, Nick Cassidy, as per usual, is like a late race energy conservation king. Has climbed back up, but even in Miami, he just couldn't make any ground. And the only other consistent thing has been Dan Tickton.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, retiring from every single race. 2 of them from incidents, not really too involved to him. And one of them, I believe, was from just mechanical failure at the most recent race. But he, understandably, was a little bit angry about some of the stewarding decisions. Oh dear. And he made a pretty fair point, which I think could carry across to other sports, or other motorsports, is that they don't have there is not
Yes.
that consistency.
The consistency in the stewarding is something
yeah.
that obviously has been called into question in Formula One before as well. And obviously with British bias, I remember there was a big sort of outcry when Johnny Herbert was a steward with certain decisions that were made. It does feel like there needs to be a more consistent sort of team of stewards that follow the Formula One circus, or obviously indeed other racing series, that then apply the same rules, in the same manner. Yeah. That would obviously be something I think is a welcome change from my point of view, at least.
Yes. And I think that's about it for Formula E. I really needed to write better notes for this. That's the one thing I've learned from this podcast.
Yes.
Episode.
We'll get better at this, I swear.
Yeah. We'll try. However, what I shall now bring up is that we are, as of today, being the evening of the 2nd, we are just the day before the first preseason test of MotoGP at Sepang. And guess who's not showing up to tests for the second year in a row? Jorge Martin. I don't know what's gone on with him. I don't know if he's injured again. I might actually go quickly check. But it is ridiculous that this man has last year injured himself before preseason testing.
Oof.
Went to preseason testing, injured himself again, had to miss a bunch of the early rounds, came back, injured himself again, had to miss a bunch of the further rounds, came back, did a couple more rounds, injured himself again, and sat out the rest of the season.
Why does he bother? I mean, I don't watch MotoGP, so once again, this is you telling me everything, but why does he bother?
Well, you see, here's the thing. Why does he bother? He was the reigning champion.
Oh.
He won 2024.
I see. That's not the look.
He'd moved to a factory Aprilia in which his teammate, Marco Bezzecchi, came third in the championship. There was a chance for him to win. Maybe not against the absolute insane class that was Marc Marquez and his brother Alex, which that came out of nowhere. But it was still, there was a chance, and I feel like it was completely squandered. And now he's not even going to make it to the start of this year's testing.
Damn.
Alongside that, there was also Fabio Quartararo. Sorry, not Fabio Quartararo. Oh god, brain's gone. Come back to me. Fermin Algar, that's it. He's broken his wrist, I believe, and so he's and has had operations on it, and so can't take part in testing. But that's a little more reasonable. He's going into his second year in the sport. It's nothing crazy. So, he's even gotten a win last year, so it's promising. It's a bit upsetting, but I'm hoping he'll come back.
Right.
However, speaking of Quartararo, who I fumbled the name of earlier, there has been massive talks that silly season is starting for MotoGP, as there's a new set of regulations going into 2027. A bunch of people are out of contract, and one of the big talks is that Fabio Quartararo, the 2021 world champion, is going to be moving to a factory Honda seat, kicking out either Mir or Marini. And in that, there's also news that his spot at Yamaha is going to be taken by the now injured again Jorge Martin.
I see.
And then there's also reports that Pedro Acosta, the up-and-coming talent, is going to be moving to factory Ducati to join Marc Marquez, which could be insane, considering the pace he's had on a KTM that's not been the most interesting.
Right.
So it is definitely a season to watch going forward, and based on how tight some of the battles were at the back end of last year, it's definitely going to be a good one as the end of the regulation comes in.
I may have to peep at certain points then.
It's definitely good fun.
It's not something I've ever really looked into very much at all. Of all the motorsport series that we've discussed just here briefly, it's definitely the one I am comfortably the least educated on. I could name maybe two drivers, or riders, I guess you'd call them, in history. So I'm definitely not an avid Rossi and Marquez. So.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the two that I could really name myself. So not something I've definitely taken a vested interest in the past, but just from obviously your enthusiasm there discussing it and the way you sort of hyped it up, might be something to watch out for me, and obviously for the listeners at home as well. Well,
yeah, I mean,
all five of them.
I'd personally say, well, for the moment, you never know. Give it time.
500,000.
The all two people.
All two people, aka us listening back.
Us. No, I won't listen. I won't listen back.
I don't want to hear my voice. Don't want to hear it.
Stick it on loudspeaker somewhere. But no, I think MotoGP is definitely one to watch. It's probably my favourite non-Formula One series at the moment, especially with how competitive some of the lower classes of it as well, like Moto 2 and Moto 3. But I don't follow those quite as closely.
Okay, well,
yeah, I think that's
good
about
stuff.
all I've got to say.
So that rather wraps up the discussion there. Obviously, private test is now concluded. We've seen a lot from the teams, but also we really haven't seen much either. It is a case of, much to be made of nothing at current point. Obviously, no team is really showing their true pace at the moment. There's speculation, like there always is, about certain teams sandbagging. Obviously, teams like Williams haven't even had the opportunity to show up. So we really don't know where some teams will be. And it's all speculation at the moment. But it's exciting to think about. And obviously, we'll be going into pre-season testing in Bahrain soon. And that should give us a slightly better idea of where each team lines up ahead of the first race in Melbourne. So we really are at a sort of crossroads here with these new regulations, because there's a lot to be said, but not much to be seen. So,
yes. And most importantly, there's a lot for us to waffle about in the coming weeks.
So please do join us next week when we discuss the tracks and drivers this season. Obviously, we're still waiting for all the liveries to be revealed, but we will be discussing and ranking the liveries soon. But next week, we will be ranking every track on the 2026 calendar, and sort of like the F1 games do, where we give a sort of ranking for each driver. We'll also be doing that as well, based on our own opinions. So, please do join us then. But
and if you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free. Tell us if you've got any questions that you want us to answer on the podcast.
Yes.
Then feel free to drop them in comments in some method or the other.
We do have the privilege of being a very small podcast right now. We can answer almost every question that's left for us. And as we hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, grow, we will still make a vested effort to, answer questions and engage with our audience. So please do leave comments, because the chances are at this juncture as well, we will read them. So there's a lot for you guys to be able to contribute to this as well. But apart from that, please do join us next week. It should be fun. A lot of waffle.
And in which case, we shall hopefully see you then.
Indeed. So,
goodbye.
If you've made it this far, thank you very much. And yes, goodbye.